Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 90 of Nostalgia Talk. That's right, the big 90, which is also 10 away from triple digits. And joining me for this big milestone is the one and only Corey Burton.
Well, hello there, or as Gary Owens used to say, hello and hi.
Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Corey is a voice actor with many, many credits to his name. I honestly could be here all night if I went over all of his credits, but among some of them are many roles for Disney, such as voice doubling for Captain Hook, Dale, Grumpy, the dwarf from the Seven Dwarfs, not to be confused with my grandfather, Grumpy, Ludwig Von Drake, the Mad Hatter, the White Rabbit, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Yensid, who else? Doc Hudson for Cars, Professor Owl in the Disney Sing-Along Song series, among so many others. He's done a lot of announcing for Disney films, whether that be feature films or short films, and also for the Disney parks. You might recognize him as the tram at Disneyland, among one of them.
That's right. Welcome.
Welcome to Nostalgia Talk.
Yeah, really.
And in addition to that,
okay, sorry.
No, go ahead. This was actually really fun to hear.
Oh, continue. Yeah, please keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside while the podcast is in motion. Thank you.
And in addition to that, he is also the voice double for Cad Bane and Count Dooku in the Transformers series, as well as the Star Wars series, and
Clone Wars.
Yes.
And Bad Batch. And yes, I am Cad Bane. Book of Boba Fett. Yes, live action.
And Shockwave in the Transformers series. I got my media franchises mixed up there.
Yeah. Two of the Transformers, the original and Transformers animated.
That's correct.
Yes. I got to reprise Shockwave, my favorite character from the Transformers, based on David Warner,
because I was asked to replicate his voice for the Tron. Actually, it was the first arcade video game with sound, not with sound, but with digitally recorded voices. Even though it was like, I don't know, whatever, 8-bit or 4-bit or something really minimal. But yeah, so I did the
Master Control Program.
And also Sock was the character for the Tron arcade game, the original. And I've done a lot of David Warner before that.
Mm-hmm. As you guys can tell by Corey's voice, he has an incredible vocal range. He can really push it to the extreme when it comes to a lot of these characters. He's just got such an incredible voice. He's an incredibly talented performer. And Corey, I'm very happy to welcome you to episode number 90 of Nostalgia Talk.
Well, you're very kind.
I'm just an old Hollywood voice man.
I started in 1972 professionally.
Right. That was actually going to be my first question. How did you become interested in voice acting?
Well, I actually, it's a story I often tell. I knew this was what I wanted to do when I was, must have been like 6 years old, 5, I don't know. And like Sunday night, I've been watching Flintstones and Jetsons, and I loved all the cartoon voices and especially the trick voices, as they used to call them. Mel Blanc's parrot and stuff, from the old Jack Benny shows as well. Benny's a cheapskate. Benny's a cheapskate. Whatever. I could never do like Mel Blanc does those kinds of things. Did, and my grandma, my long late Bobby, was tucking me in for the night, and she said, "Tell me, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, there's a guy that does all those funny voices, like on the cartoons. I said, I want to do that. And she said, she laughed and she said, "What do you really want to do?" I thought, I can't do that, huh? And then, but I was, always a big fan, and I would, even before my voice changed, I would watch all the mimics and impressionists on TV. Rich Little, and of course before him, David Fry was the greatest, and Will Jordan goes way back, and George Kirby, uh, John Biner. There were a lot of great impressionists and mimics, and I loved them. And I had a good ear, and my dad used to mimic family members and friends, uh, just casually, and with my brother and my cousins, we used to make these little radio play tapes where just create these adventures with family members and friends of the family, just insane little radio shows. We had one sort of War of the Worlds apocalyptic.
It's funny that you say that,
Imitated.
actually, because one of my previous guests was Brian Cummings, and he told me that you and him did a radio
Mm,
show in your uncle's rug factory, was it?
that's right. Yes. Nick Dollar, detective. That was, I loved that. That was so much fun. And Brian's a genius. Brian
Oh
is a
yeah.
genius. He's nuts. I mean, we all are a little, but he's so funny, so talented. And a dear friend. I haven't talked to him in a while, but you know. But Brian Cummings. I'll just cap off that story. So yeah. So I followed in mimics and impressionists. I was a big fan of all these voices, and I love Disneyland, and couldn't wait for the Haunted Mansion to open. And when I finally visited the first time, I heard that voice. Welcome, foolish mortal. The ghost host, Paul Frees. And I thought, who is that? It sounds superhuman, but it has to be a person. Who is that? I want to meet that person, and I want to be in that business. That's what I'm doing. and I wrote letters. And in those days, it's a long time ago. I'm very old. Um, one of the responses I got was from radio station KMPC from the great Gary Owens, who I later became friends with and worked with, and loved him. God, he was great. Anyway, but yeah, he was on air. He had a radio show on KMPC, local AM radio station in those days. Very funny, and he answered my letter because I heard Paul Frees' voice. He was doing Bela Lugosi, cheesy, cartoony Dracula voice for a commercial for like 7-Eleven stores. Why don't you come to 7-Eleven? Whatever it was, silly. But I knew that was the same guy. And I said, who is that? And from two stations, I got KGIL and KMPC. And Gary Owens was one who said, yes, that's one of the busiest voice men in Hollywood, Paul Frees. And actually, a year or so after that, Paul Frees was a guest on his radio show. And I still somewhere have recordings of that. It was just amazing. Anyway, now then, I completely sidetracked from. So, yeah. So, but anyway, when I went into the Haunted Mansion, and heard that voice, I determined that's what I was going to do, and I just started to learn all about the business, and through my uncle Bert. That's where I get my my official, as they say, stage name, whatever, Burton, and my Uncle Bert was that was his warehouse, carpet and drapery business, where I had my little studio when I was my late teens, early 20s. Anyway, but my Uncle Bert knew June Foray, and I spotted her name in the credits of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, and she was always just the greatest character voice woman.
Yeah, pure legend.
And yeah, I was just remarkable talent and quite a personality. But anyway, and yeah, I was watching Saturday the Bullwinkle show or whatever it was called, and I was watching. We were at my grandmother's apartment or something, I think, and I was looking at the credits. I said, "Oh man, yeah, the Paul Frees, wow, and June Foray, she's amazing. She does every single female voice, and she's Rocky the Flying Squirrel." And my mom said, "Oh, your uncle knows her." And I said, "What?" Yeah, Bert, don't you know June Foray? "Oh yeah, I know June." I said, well, can I meet her? Can I talk to her? And he said, "Oh yeah, she's really nice." And so, yeah.
Talk about luck! Wow.
Yeah. Well, as they say, Hollywood is a small town. I mean, I'm not from Hollywood. I'm a Valley boy. I'm a Valley dude. Van Nuys, man. Anyway, still in the Valley. But anyway, so so he arranged for a phone call, and June was great as always. And she said, "Oh, why don't you? I'll tell you what. I'm going to be at Channel 5, KTLA, next week. I'm doing a session with Dawes Butler. Do you know who Dawes Butler is?" "Oh, yeah." So why don't you come, watch the session? We'll be there, it's whatever. So I went there with a friend and met June and Dawes. We were, I don't know, 15, my friend and I guess.
Was
Yeah.
it Keith Scott?
No, Keith, I already, I think, no. It was, I don't know if it was then or no, it was shortly after that.
Okay.
That
Keith says hi, by the way. I told him that you were coming on the podcast.
Oh yeah. My everlasting best regards. I mean, we're we're just bonded for life since teenagers. And I don't have to tell you, Keith is just remarkable talent and historian, and I think, well, with Brian Cummings and a few other greats, one of the funniest people in the world. I mean, oh my God, he makes me laugh so hard. And yeah, we'd be in touch more often, but I think we both know the same things. Well, get us on the phone or on whatever, Zoom or FaceTime, and we'll never get off. We just go on and on and on, laughing and laughing. Anyway, but yeah, always best regards. I mean, Keith really helped helped cement my relationship, my mentorship with Doss Butler, uh, and and just really connected me with the whole Jay Ward company and all of those great talents, writers and actors and producers. Yeah,
And
no,
what was that like for you to finally meet people like June Foray and Dawes Butler, Bill Scott, Jay Ward? Because you're a fan of these shows that these people are working on, as like when and you're watching them at such a young age, and then you find out that you have a connection to June Foray, and you're in the same room as all of these people. Like, what was that moment like for you?
Well, the first thing that struck me, as I think anyone at the time, you hear these grand and glorious, bigger than life character voices, that just mean so much and make you laugh so hard throughout your childhood. And here, as a teenager, I was never a gigantic person, fairly little guy actually. But what struck me was, oh my God, these people are tiny. That came up to my chest. Dawes was 5'2", and June was maybe 4'10" or 11. Tiny little people, and yet their voices could shake the walls.
Mhm.
They're from from radio, and I don't know if Dawes was ever in vaudeville. He would have been probably a little young, but all the great radio actors who became the great cartoon voice actors came from vaudeville. Uh, and but anyway, but yeah. So, but the funny thing was, of course, I love June Foray, and she was such a character. But she's just okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. I'm gonna go get my whatever, get all set, and then Dawes immediately starts teaching. It's like, now you see, we're gonna do a take now, and and you see, these are my cues, and and I like to mark the script here, so I remember, so the gag is here, so I want to pause there. That'll get a bigger laugh, and it's like, and but anyway, so and I kept in touch with Dawes, but it was when Keith came out to Hollywood the first time, when he won the trip. uh, uh, so we arranged to visit Dawes, and he had his little recording studio, and we played around with voices and scripts and stuff. He didn't yet have a workshop, but obviously was sort of destined to do that. But anyway, so yeah, Keith and I got on the microphone, and we read some stuff, and we did some of our favorite character voices, and of course I did since high school. Easily the easiest impersonation I did was Hans Conried, who was Snidely Whiplash, and um, 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 and in the Hoppity Hooper series, I don't know if you ever saw those very early Jay Ward cartoons. He was Waldo Wigglesworth, Uncle Waldo. But mainly, I loved Hans Conried because he hosted a very funny dubbed silent film. What would you call it? collage show called Fractured Flickers. And they took old silent films, serious and comedic, and Bill Scott, Paul Frees, June Foray, Hans Conried, and I don't know, did Dawes do Fractured Flickers? Maybe not. They'd put funny voices on silent film footage, you know, like they
that's clever.
They're hilarious, but they're because of the estates of the long gone silent actors. They're not really allowed to air them anywhere on broadcast TV, and it's a shame because they're hilarious.
So, do you remember your first ever professional gig as a voice actor?
Yeah. Professionally, the very first one that was in 1972. I guess it was recorded in 72. I don't know. I auditioned in 72. No, I think so. It was the end of the year. Yeah. It was so anyway. Because of the time when Keith and I were with Dawes Butler, playing around with characters and voices, and I did my Hans Conried. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Fractured Flickers. Fractured Flickers is brought to you by the makers of Mistakes. Anyway, so I could always do Hans Conried, and very easily. There's nothing to it. Dawes Butler had remembered my impersonation of Hans Conried, and he called me. He said, "Oh, you know, there's a school slide film for Disney that I'm cast in, and they're looking for Hans Conried, but he's not available. He's on tour." He said, "Would you like to come down to Beverly Hills and audition for this Hans Conried part?" I said, "Okay." And so yeah, went down and auditioned, and of course got the job. I played. It was for a school educational slide film called Chef Omelette's Health Diet. Chef Omelette was played by the great Hal Smith, and I was Professor Plum Butter, who ate nothing but plum butter. And it was a Hans Conried character. And school slide films, by the way, for all of you people who are younger than 60, were what we used to get in grammar school and high school, junior high school, whatever, where they would put on a phonograph record, and they had a film strip projector where they manually advanced the frame. So they were projecting, illustrations, mostly painted or drawn or whatever. Sometimes photographic, but anyway, and they'd always begin, "When you hear the tone," or in Disney with more storyteller stuff, "when you hear Tinkerbell's, bell chime, ding, 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 turn the page," or whatever, change the slide, advance the slide. Anyway, so we did the soundtrack to Chef Omelette's Health Diet, and I worked with Dawes Butler, Hal Smith, Don Messick, and Janet Waldo.
Ooh, a lot of the classics.
Yeah, my very first recording session, and I I never really got to know Messick that well, but he was very nice to me. He was a nice man. But of course, Hal Smith, I became very good friends with Hal. Worked with him a lot over the years. He was brilliant and hilarious. You little devil, you. He always used to say to me.
And from doing that, subbing for Hans Conried's voice for that little slide film, that eventually led to replacing not well, yeah, to being the replacement for him for Captain Hook. How did you get that? Was that through kind of the same thing? It was like, oh, this guy
yeah. Well, when they established Disney character voices, it was actually before it was established as a actual division of Disney. So the Chef Omelette's Health Diet was produced by these independent, in a little independent production company, Sandy Whiteside, Bob Sandy, and Daniel Whitesides. Yeah, I think. But that was produced for Wademco, Walt Disney Educational Media Company. Which and funny, I'm so bad with names and stuff, but I sure remember all of this. So the producer was a guy named Randy Neeson, and his assistant was a guy named Les Perkins. Les Perkins went on to be sort of a voice casting director, I guess, for Disney and for Imagineering, WDI. But anyway, he heard my Hans Conried, and I don't know who he contacted. Who said, "Oh yeah, this kid he does all kinds of impressions and voices, and you should have him in." And so Les Perkins called me in for a general audition, and just like, what do you got? And he was a young guy, and I'm not as young as I was, but anyway, and yeah, I went down to Disney. I don't remember if that was at Imagineering or probably, and just ran a gamut of different things, and then he ended up casting me. Well, he didn't officially cast me. He hooked me up with a young guy out from Detroit, I guess, Michigan, right? Yeah, Jim Magon.
Oh yeah, I've met Jim before.
Yeah, and Jim and with Gary Kreisel was producing remakes of the Little Golden Book storyteller records for kids. And they needed multi-character voice people, so they and so Les said, here, Jim, you need this kid. And so I did a bunch of voices. We did, so many of those little records, Little Golden Book. I Can Read or something series. And then that eventually when they went through that whole library, things like Chicken Little and all the old fairy tale kind of stuff that Little Golden Books did back in the 50s and 60s. But then Magon and Kreisel started to work with Disneyland Records, because I guess Disneyland Records produced the Little Golden Book series, for Disney Storyteller Records, which they had done so many Storyteller Records, where usually they're hit movies, and they would have the story of the movie, The Lady and the Tramp or whatever, with some music, but they were all just storyteller. It was an actress named Roby Lester. This is the story of Lady and the Tramp. And Lady said, "I don't know, Tramp." And Tramp said, "Oh, come on. You can do it." It's like, okay. And Jim and Gary, they thought, no, let's really update this. Let's make it to sound like clips from the actual film, with with casting each character role to sound like from the Disney film, and of course, so we did several of those titles, myself and another friend from workshop, Tony Pope, who was a good friend, long past now. But
well, speaking of, when you do Captain Hook, because you've done him in like TV shows and theme park attractions, and also the feature film Return to Neverland, and of course, like doing a movie, it's it's longer hours usually. I mean, maybe for a cartoon, it's like, okay, schedule for this time to this time, and then we just kind of keep on going. But still, it's exhausting because it's a longer thing than a TV episode. So when you do Captain Hook, do you find that doing the character for a TV series like Jake and the Neverland Pirates against doing a movie like Return to Neverland to be more of a challenge because of the length of time?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because I mean, really, even in a feature film, even for a featured character like Captain Hook, it's not that much dialogue.
Okay.
But it depends on the director, really. Jamie Thomason, who directed a lot of Disney TV shows, was always a very particular director, sweet guy.
Okay.
But he always had a precise idea of how he wanted every line delivered and timed. So so many takes with Jamie. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. A lot of people just love that film. I got some good reviews even, but
yeah, I mean, it was a great way to bring back a lot of these iconic characters to the big screen, because it's like you see them in the theme parks, for example, but then there's that long gap between the original Peter Pan and Return to Neverland, where they weren't playing like big roles in other than the Little Golden Books that you mentioned, where you were doing that.
Right.
But I mean, but like you said, they wanted to kind of make it sound as if it was like right from the movie by having actors and sound-alikes do it. But this long time between the two movies was just a great way to make it classic for everybody, really.
Yeah, well, between 1978, I guess, 77, I don't know when it was, when I recorded Captain Hook for Peter Pan's Flight at Disneyland to replace the old soundtracks from the 1950s. Well, actually, Disneyland opened when I was born.
Oh, wow.
But so we recorded for the new Fantasyland which opened in 1980. They finished it, I guess. It was actually the world's first digital theme park loop recordings. It was always like Soundstream digital done on video cassettes or something. I don't know. Anyway, well, ancient technology. But anyway, so yeah, I recorded those few Captain Hook. I did other Fantasyland attractions too. A Mad Hatter, you know. Wait, did I do Mad Hatter? Yeah. Oh, I did White Rabbit for Alice's Adventures. Yeah. Anyway.
Funny you talk about being late. I'm late for a very important date.
For a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late. Actually, I had done that years before for Bob Sandy and Dan Whiteside for another Disney school thing. Anyway, but yeah, so that was in the late 70s. I recorded those tracks as Captain Hook, and then it was decades later, I guess, where I finally was asked to be Captain Hook again for Fantasmic, which was the Bruce Healy. Oh my God, fantastic music man for Disney theme parks and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, Bruce retired a couple of years ago, but he was great. But anyway, so yeah, Fantasmic, and as far as I know, I think they're still running the track now. They don't have the pirate ship scene in Florida, but they have a new restored version of Fantasmic, I guess, at Disneyland. And they've got I did Captain Hook and Mr. Smee for those for the Fantasmic soundtrack, which is still a great show. Anyway, so yeah, that was yeah. And then after that, there was another long pause before I was called upon to play Captain Hook again. And then, you know, the Jake and the Neverland Pirates series came along, and well, you know, there was a lot of corporate meddling, let's say, because they were worried that because, you know, it was targeted for preschoolers, you know, up through teens, whatever, that the voice of Captain Hook was too intimidating. It was too scary for little kids. They couldn't understand it because of the English accent. It's not an English accent.
It's not really an accent at all. It's just a stronger kind of big voice.
Yeah, well, it's Hans Conried's impression of his idol, screen legend John Barrymore. They thought that they made me do a range of Captain Hook variations, even some without any accent, which made me furious. I don't even know if I think maybe I did one line and I said, nah, I don't want to do that, because you lose the character. It's not, you know, without any accent or affect at all. You know, well, what the hell is it? It's not Captain Hook. And they worried about it, and so then I did a kindly version of Captain Hook, which was garbage, you know. I'm terribly sorry, Jake. I'm just an old pirate, you know. It's like, yeah. And so then, you know, I'm working with Kelly Ward, who just fantastic, our voice director and yeah, co-producer of Jake and the Neverland Pirates and current and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Mickey Mouse Funhouse and whatever. I love Kelly. Anyway, so after that audition thing, they were still mulling it over. And then they booked the first session, and I showed up, and I had been listening to an old, it was Mel Blanc comedy radio show. And Hans Conried was one of the cast members who did funny characters, and he played a pharmacist or something, and it was Hans Conried being, you know, with himself sort of, but delivering these cheesy comedy lines with a studio audience for laughs. And I remember, Keith remembers it well too, because it makes us laugh so hard. The way Hans Conried performed was straight from vaudeville. So and he would have a line like in the Mel Blanc show. It was something about Mel Blanc would say, "Oh, I hear your wife bought this whatever they used to call it, vanishing cream, you know, face cream, you know, she puts on at night to keep her skin supple and whatever." And no, Hans Conried must have been a customer. He said, "Yes, my wife, she tried that new face cream, that vanishing cream." I said, "Well, how does she like it?" "Oh, fine, fine. Only one problem." "Yes." She puts it on and she just keeps sliding out of bed, you know, and just kaboom, you know, this ridiculously over the top delivery for the punchline. And it got a big laugh. And of course, and I thought, here's how to do Captain Hook that would be kid friendly. You take the Captain Hook character and you have Hans Conried perform it like for vaudeville comedy, just big and crazy and hammy, chew the scenery, you know, which he did anyway. But to take all the scary out of it, just make it crazy ridiculous. And so that's what we did. And then by that time they had cast Jeff Bennett to do Mr. Smee, which was great because I never really was that good at Mr. Smee. And you know, we became this comedy team, like you know, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, whatever. And oh man, was that fun. Well, that was so much fun. I missed that. I don't know. I was talking to Kelly just a couple weeks ago, and he said maybe there's a chance that they'll bring back Jake and the Neverland Pirates. I don't know.
Well, when you did that show, did you have any interaction with Cameron Boyce, one of the actors who played Jake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't work at the same time.
Okay.
With all
yeah, because usually you're doing it separately.
Well, I would always just be with Jeff.
Okay.
But you know, because of school age kids, you know, they have to be scheduled separately and they have to come in with their tutor. You know, for it's union rules,
right?
So that Hollywood kids would not be uh, uh, um, denied education and abused, of course, and worked too many hours, So, so there was always strictly by the rules. But yeah, I met Cameron a couple of times, and and oh, I said, they said this is the best kid. Everybody just loved him, and and I could see why. I mean, he was really good and really professional, but just a good person.
He definitely seemed like it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was that actually. It's funny. One of the few big shocks, and I'm very stoic about about life and death and whatever. I mean, I'm an autism spectrum guy. I'm not that not that sentimental.
Right.
But yeah, when I heard that he had passed, I was just deeply saddened. What a tragedy.
Yeah.
But I mean, there have been a lot of great kid voice actors. It's that I've worked with over the years, and one of them would impress the hell out of me. I wasn't even that familiar with him as a celebrity at the time, or was he even yet a celebrity? I don't know. Was Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
Oh wow, from Home Improvement.
Yeah, he was just a little kid, and he'd pick up a script and be like, okay, boom, and he would just be like a total pro radio actor, and then so smart and fun to chat with. I mean, extremely just a really cool, smart guy, and he still is, as far as I know. I remember we were all just chatting, character voice actors and the director, whoever, studio staff, and I said, so you think you're gonna stay an actor? He said, well, I don't know. He said, I'd like to be a producer or a director one day. Okay. And none of us had any doubts that he if he wanted to do it, that he wouldn't. This great guy. I mean, I haven't seen him since he was a little kid.
So eventually you took on a lot of the other classic Disney characters, such as Ludwig Von Drake, Dale, Grumpy, the Mad Hatter,
Yeah.
White Rabbit, Yen Sid, like so many of them.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
a lot of the
Yen Sid I created.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the sorcerer from Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Right, okay.
Didn't have a voice.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. He didn't have a voice. And so when they were doing Kingdom Hearts, I guess, was the first time I did Yen Sid, I guess. And they said, oh, it's the sorcerer from Sorcerer's Apprentice. Oh. And I watched clips of Fantasia. I said, he doesn't have a voice. I said, well, yeah, I know. Just what do you think he would sound like? And I said, well, he would sound like an old Shakespearean actor from the 1920s, and kind of like the Magic Mirror, which I'm the official voice of since Tony J passed away. Yes, but so I did that New York Shakespearean hammy stage actor type of thing. Now, how would I play a wizard? Yes, and so I look at the face, follow the direction, hear you know, how I find a character is usually, you know, unless it's uh, dictated by a previous actor's iconic performance.
Mhm.
I just as when you read a novel and you read the dialogue, you don't see the words anymore. You hear the voice in your head. So I look at the dialogue and I hear the voice. and so then I do it. I do what I hear in my head.
So with a lot of the other characters that I mentioned, like Ludwig von Drake and Dale and Mad Hatter, so like they had like they had already been established by another voice actor,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Paul Frees doing
Yeah.
Ludwig von Drake, Bill
Yeah.
Thompson doing a couple of them.
Right.
Yeah. So like because a lot of these characters had some of the same voice actors, how is it established that you would get to take over some of them?
Well, now Ludwig, I turned down. Les Perkins asked me, "I want you to try to do Ludwig von Drake," and I just thought I would listen to it, and I thought, oh, no, I can't do that. Paul Frees, oh my God, I can't. How can I sound like that? It's impossible. It's such genius. And I turned it down 5 times,
Oh.
and then Les, he had me over to his house, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to do something you're not supposed to do, but I need you to hear this. Here are the auditions for Ludwig. I know you can do better than this." And he played me, 5, 6 different auditions from various voice actors and character actors. And it's like, well, yeah, okay. And so I started to work on it bit by bit. In fact, Les even had to teach me how to roll the R properly. Said, no, you have to put your teeth together. Because I was going, like French. It wasn't working. And I said, no. And so, but then, when playing back Paul Frees' original tracks, I said, wait a second. So I was listening and I knew Paul Frees' voice, better than my own, his range. I thought, that's not, and because I had heard him do Ludwig von Drake on the Gary Owens radio show, so it's sped up. That's what gives it that special zing. It's sped up. And so let's slow it down and say, okay, that's how he performed it. And actually, Ludwig von Drake is a much lower voice than you hear on the television because, because it's sped up, so it has a little bit of helium to it. and which also makes the enunciation on words much funnier because when you got a bunch of fast syllables and comedic sounding words, whatever, when it's sped up, it's funnier. It's just funnier because it's inhumanly fast. And then of course the laughs, the pitch and the pace of the laughter is much funnier than just pitch shifting it. Anyway, so as soon as I discovered that, and then I started to slow down the Paul Frees tracks, okay, now I think I can sound like that. All right. And of course, the older I've gotten, the better it is. But the main thing about Von Drake, uniquely, Paul Frees, he wrote and ad-libbed so much of the Von Drake dialogue from the World of Color series.
Is that something that you do when you do Von Drake?
Well, I mean, I did not. I don't know if I even knew that in the beginning. I mean, eventually I figured it out, but but I did so many Von Drake bits, and most of them, I just followed the director and stuck to the script and did the best I could. And then when I would hear it back, I was never satisfied. It's it's clunky. It's not funny. I don't know. And then of course, I don't know. I think it was DuckTales or something, and the writing of it, and they had like German words, Achtung and stuff. And I said, no, no German, no Yiddish. That's not his accent. And they, especially when Von Drake started, it's just in the '60s. They didn't want a German character, and Von Drake was Austrian. And Paul Frees, is doing a Viennese accent, a comedic Viennese accent from Vienna, Austria. And I just thought, yeah, Frees. He had such an amazing, hilarious ego. Well, of course, that's an Austrian accent, I've been to Vienna. I know how they talk. He was so funny. The ego. It was put on too. But anyway, and then like a little while later, I was watching. This is in recent Von Drake years. When I decided, okay, so the words are it's not the way he talks. It's like you got to hear the voice in your head.
Like it's not scripted the way that he talks.
Right. But then, and then I figured out, it's because the original Von Drake stuff that was funny was not scripted. It was Paul Frees. How do you like that? Now, you put this and that, and look at who gave me all these wires. Where did they go? I don't understand. Anyways, it's just a very vaudeville comedic. A lot of it based on Sid Caesar and probably Professor Irwin Corey, who was very, very funny. The kooky, scatterbrain scientist type character. Anyway, so
Dale is also sped up, right?
Oh yeah. Well, Chip and Dale. Now I get to be like Paul Frees with the ego. I invented the speaking voices of Chip and Dale. I kind of did.
Yeah, because they were able to talk in the original cartoons, but it
Rescue
sounded so much like gibberish in those ones.
It was gibberish. It was gibberish.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because it was just like.
If you slow it down, they were a local actress and one of the ink and paint girls, randomly chosen, would go in and just record just nonsense, really. And then they sped it up to be chipmunks. So they want. There was no intelligible dialogue from Chip and Dale until Rescue Rangers. It's like, well, it's limited animation, TV animation. And they got to carry a lot of dialogue. So we have to make their voices legible. So I went into B&B Studios and we experimented with tape speed, and we got it as slow as we could, but it's still sounding chipmunky. And then you adjust your speaking speed for that. But for the characterization, it was like Megan and Tad Stones was saying, what do you got? I said, well, they come from the 1940s. So they're like the dead end kids, the little rascals, Say, wise guy, what's a big idea? Oh, don't be such a bully. don't be such a mook, whatever, all that 1940s kid expressions, and in even the cadence and the delivery of phrases and words, especially in movies. I mean, of course, I wasn't alive in those years, so I don't know if kids talked like that in real life, but I'll bet they did. So like asking a question. In the 1940s, a kid would not say, "Well, what do you think of that?" No. Well, what do you think of that? You know, or whatever. The voice go down on a question. Just this is the style of speech in those days, and it adds a lot. And and then I base the Dale voice, which is also applies to Chip, on the Little Rascals, and especially I based Dale on Alfalfa. If you've ever seen Little Rascals.
I saw the movie.
Oh, well, that's got nothing to do with the originals, the Little Rascal shorts.
Mm-hmm. I know of the Little Rascal shorts, of course, but I mostly just saw the film version.
Yeah, but Alfalfa was with the big spike of hair. Mm-hmm. And he was from Tulsa, Oklahoma, actually. But anyway, so he had this kind of twang. And then also, I think he was also from Oklahoma. I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. Maybe. But I also put a little bit of Pinto Colvig in it too, because Dale is a clown. He's got a big red nose. And he's kind of dopey. He's kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. But always in a good mood. And maybe spinning off the Pinto Colvig, a little bit tipsy sometimes, So that became Dale. So it's like goofy, And then of course we had to Tress and I had to learn how to do the chipmunk laugh, which we're both getting a little old for. I'm glad they have a lot of it in the library, because it has to be oh, there. Well, that was pretty good. But the older you get, it's hard to get that rapid rhythm in it. And then of course when it's sped up, it's really funny.
Mm-hmm. And then you actually got to take over one of Pinto Colvig's characters, Grumpy, from the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah. It's funny. I had mixed feelings about that.
Okay.
Because it was that was one of the assigned characters that my old pal Tony Pope used to do, and it was taken away from him. I don't know. There was some personality conflict between Les Perkins and Tony Pope. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I always felt bad about that. But they said, no, we want you to do Grumpy. So listened a lot of Grumpy. And then I think I really, just like with Von Drake, I really learned to feel ownership of the characters when we would do character interviews. Mm-hmm. During Disney press events. They used to do live radio remotes from Walt Disney World, and we go from radio station to radio station. It would all be live all over the world. Actually, a very funny story about Grumpy.
Oh, let's hear it.
So anyway, so yeah, especially Von Drake, I got to really develop a great ad lib style with Von Drake, and learn to think like Von Drake, because he's ridiculous. He's full of nonsense. Anyway, so now I don't even know what I'm going to say. By the way, when you click into character, I just let the character go, and it's like I surprise myself. It's like, oh, I didn't know I would say that, but I didn't. The character did. It just accesses certain parts of your brain. I don't know. Anyway, so I was with the late Mary Kay Bergman, who was a very good friend. Another terrible tragedy. Anyway, but so and we were going from radio station to radio station, and she'd be Snow White and I'd be Grumpy, mainly. I'd do other characters as well, but every radio station wanted to talk to Grumpy because I insulted them. It was great. They say, well, Grumpy, how are you today? It's too early. What are you doing asking stupid fool questions?
Wow. Let me just say, way grumpier than my Grumpy, because that's what I call my grandfather ever since I've known how to talk.
Yeah, no. When I was playing the misogynist blowhard Grumpy from the original film,
who of course had a heart. I mean, like when the dwarfs suspected that Snow White had been kidnapped by the queen, they all like they didn't even hesitate, not even Grumpy, not even bashful or Sleepy. I mean, Sleepy was yawning as he was saying, maybe the old queen's got Snow White, and as soon as they all realized that, they just raced out the door to look for her.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess Grumpy was, led the pack. Was
pretty much,
her savior. But anyway, so that relates to the story. So so we're doing Snow White and Grumpy, and it's like the fifth radio station in a row, and we're tired, and it's it's like oppressively hot in Florida, and it's like, okay, what radio station is this? I don't know. Okay. So, yes, and here here's Star White and Grumpy. Says, yes, and how you doing today? Not so good. Too hot. Whatever I would say. Oh, now, Grumpy, don't be such a fuss budget, or whatever she would say. And says, so Grumpy. So Grumpy, I hear you have a problem with her. What do you think of the Queen? And click, the line from the movie. She's an old witch. and silence, and jaws dropped.
From the people in the station? Wow.
I looked down, UK, Birmingham, UK, or whatever. It's like, oh, the Queen! They have a Queen! Oh, I just called her an old witch. And Mary Kay saved the day. She said, yes, she tried to kill me, and Grumpy saved me, whatever. Because then they get, oh, that's cheeky. And then so they say, oh, God, no, you don't say that to a
wrong Queen.
Well, I didn't. I wasn't even thinking about that. It's like, oh, they have a Queen. Yeah, she's an old witch. Anyway, yeah, but that was memorable.
And you, in Chippendale Rescue Rangers, in addition to taking over Dale, you also got an original character, Zipper.
Yeah. He was just a sound effect. But expressive. Later on, they tried to make him say words. I didn't think he should, but anyway, I just did that. The noise I can make with my voice that's scratchy and
kind of similar to Jimmy McDonald, the sound effects artist for Disney. Of course, he did the sound effects for a lot of the characters and a lot of the actions, and then would do speaking voices himself.
I
sometimes even with sound effects. Yeah,
I learned a lot from Jimmy.
Okay.
Well, I even Well, I think he was the original Gus. Gus. That's a fun character. We got to actually work with Jimmy on Rescue Rangers on 2 episodes, or was it 1? With the bears. What's the name of the bear?
Oh, the bear that regularly shows up in the Disney cartoons.
Yeah.
Humphrey.
From Humphrey, yes, yeah, and of course I learned from Jimmy. Well, so much, but I mean, just from listening to his work and from little backstage documentary snippets I've seen, and here's how we do this, and here's the rain stick, and and here's how we do the thunder, and the big metal sheet and stuff. But yeah, he came to do Humphrey the Bear, and he pulled out the chimney from, as he called it, from a hurricane lamp. So, and then he would take the glass lantern chimney, and with the using it like a trumpeter's mute, he would put the wide end up to his mouth and nose, and go into this hurricane lamp. I don't remember if he put his hand over the narrow end or not. I think he did. So anyway, I don't have. Well, no, it's glass is too full. But anyway, but yes. So that gives that the acoustical resonance of a bear's muzzle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yes, that's how you do the sound of a bear. Of course, you do it acoustically. Nowadays, I have a little trouble containing my anger when I have an effect voice to do like that, or effect to do. There's a bucket over his head and he can't get out of it, or he's got a fishbowl on his head, whatever. Oh, let me grab a wastebasket. So no, we'll do that digitally. And I almost want to just say, well, I'll keep this G-rated.
No, go ahead. If you want to cuss, go ahead. We have a bleeper.
Yeah. No, that's all right. But it makes me so angry. I said, it's never as good. It doesn't work. And why? Why would you do that? So yeah, so Zipper is that. That noise. Let's see, what else did I do with Zipper? The buzzing thing. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if I did my vibrato thing. I don't know where I ever. I know I got it from somewhere. I don't think I invented it myself. Well, maybe I did invent it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find Tom Kenny stole it from me. I did it. I don't remember what the show was. But anyway, when I was a kid, I saw a documentary about iguanas,
mm-hmm.
and the noise they made, and I figured out a way to simulate that noise to amuse myself and my friends. Not that I had many friends. You put in my hand up against my throat and shake it up and down, and because I could see the iguana's throat jiggling like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
and so I've used that for a lot of different things. Whatever. It's a very handy little thing to create an organic vibrato and otherworldly quality.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. People do that too. But anyway, so yeah. I remember I did on some show. I was doing some alien creature, and it was a lizard creature. Yeah, of course. What is it you want, master? And Tom looked at me. He said, "Oh, I like that." And then 2 years later, SpongeBob SquarePants. Yeah, that's the
Wait, well, you heard it here first, you guys. Tom Kenny stole SpongeBob's laugh from Corey Burton.
Yeah, well, I Tom is a good friend, and none of it is stealing. It's all. This is all from old vaudeville comedians and trick voice men. I mean, even though I say I invented that, I'm sure somebody did that in the 1940s and the 1920s. Of course.
So
you just figure out how to make funny noises.
So when I announced on Nostalgia Talk's social media, Facebook and Twitter, you guys know where to go, links in the description. When I announced on Nostalgia Talk's social media that you were going to be coming on the podcast, a lot of people had a lot to say about Professor Owl. What was it like to do Professor Owl in the Disney Sing-Along Songs video series? I had those when I was a kid, and I adored them.
We did a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah, they're so much fun.
Yeah, those were done by a small company, two guys really, Phil Savinick, and it was called TV is Okay. Oh my God, I apologize. I can't remember the other guy's name.
It's all right.
Really good to me. And yeah, and we they get the old footage. Mostly it was just the same, like 5 little bits of footage from what one or it was a Music Time or something it was called, the original Disney short.
Oh, so you just kind of dubbed over that?
Yeah, on videotape too.
Okay, I don't think I ever noticed that.
Yeah, it was not easy. It was before digital, so just and they didn't even have ADR, beeps or anything, because it was early, working from video cassettes. 3/4 inch video cassettes. U-matic. Anyway, so but yeah, and so you would just see the time code numbers fly by us. Okay, look for 10036 dot 52.5 is where you come in. Okay. It's like watching these numbers fly by. So I just learned to look for visual cues. Okay, all right. So it's when he lifts his foot and starts to put it down. Did you ever stop to think when the band plays Rinky Tink, where the music comes from, or whatever? Anyway, that was, and that's based on Bill Thompson character from the original Music Time, I think they were called, or Melody Time. Melody. No,
melody.
Yeah.
Well, to all you listeners out there, it's really nice to see actually that Professor Owl is so popular among those of you who brought him up in the comments. I actually had kind of forgotten about that character until last year, I think it was. I went out with one of my friends and we just kind of went out to a little outlet mall kind of split up, and then it's like, all right, just call whenever anybody's ready. And I went to I think it was Toys R Us, I believe it was, and I found a Professor Owl Funko Pop.
Ah. Yeah. Now, the funny thing is, in later productions, and in Disneyland, I believe, the Professor Owl was done as an animatronic in Disneyland. I think it was in the lobby of the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln attraction. But they had a little educational segment having nothing to do with, I think it had to do with early Disneyland or Walt
That's
Disney.
still totally perfect for
Oh, right.
Professor Owl. Yeah.
Right, because it was the Walt Disney story that they had. Yeah. So maybe it was about the building of Disneyland. I don't know. But they had it was the voice of Hans Conried. Hans Conried did that, Mr. Owl. And I think he did it animated. I mean, Bill Thompson died a long time ago. Nobody like him, boy. And I still find it impossible to match that sound.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of voice artists who have come on this podcast. Like one, but not just about Bill Thompson, about like many others. Like I interviewed Katie Von Till, who's the current Snow White, and when I got her confirmation email, I was on a set. I was working on a TV show, and I said to one of the crew members who I was friends with, I got Katie Von Till. She's the voice of Snow White, and she's like, "Really? After all that time?" I'm like, "Okay, so." I understand why you would say that, but she's actually only been doing the character for 10 years. And Katie put it best when she said that the voice of Snow will always be Adriana, who originated it.
Yeah, I worked with Adriana. She was
Really?
like 90. It was interesting. She was dear, sweet woman, but well, let's just say that that age did indeed get the better of her voice. She could still
happens.
She could still hit the pitch a little bit here and there. Tony Anselmo used to do a wicked impression of her, bragging about how she could still do Snow White. Sound the same as when I was a girl. You know.
My God.
I'm wishing, I don't know.
I can just hear it.
Tony's very funny. I don't know if you've ever talked to him.
I haven't. I've talked to Daniel Ross, who's covered for Tony as Donald Duck occasionally.
Yeah. That's Disney TV.
Yeah.
TVA. But Donald really is officially Tony.
Yeah, it's Tony's character. Yeah.
Well, he understudied. He apprenticed with Ducky Nash, Clarence Nash, who I knew. Oh, he was funny. Oh my God, Clarence was a funny old man.
Well, talking about
Wolf in 1932, and then he was so funny. Oh my God, he was funny.
Well, talking about all of these classic Disney characters like Snow White and Donald Duck, and all the ones that you did as well, Captain Hook and the Mad Hatter, Ludwig Von Drake, Dale. What was it like to be a part of one of my very favorite childhood series, which was like a huge crossover for all of these classic Disney shows? What was it like to be part of House of Mouse?
That was interesting. I mean, that was a Jamie Thomason show. So it was,
I truly love that show. I truly loved that show when I was little. And I remember asking my parents, can we go to the House of Mouse for dinner, thinking that was a real place.
Yeah. But they really tried to bring it up into to bring the old characters into the modern world of that time. So it was innovative in many ways. Yeah, I got to do some fun stuff as Von Drake, but that was again before I just, I mean, basically I just it was, I don't remember what the turning point was. I think I had I had watched one show. It wasn't The House of Mouse, but where I had guested as Von Drake, and I just thought it sucked. I just thought, that's not Von Drake. He doesn't say things like that. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna rewrite the lines. Just try, fire me. I don't care. I'm rewriting it. I cannot deliver the character saying words that don't fit in his mouth. That's it. And so ever since then, and nobody ever has a problem with it. That's the funny thing. The directors all love it. So, you got any ideas for this? And I say, oh yeah. No, he wouldn't say that. He would say, and then after a while, like Kelly has become really good at Von Draking up a line. I'll get stuck. I say, what would he call that? What's a funnier word for, fruit bowl or something? I don't know. Anything.
Well, it's funny you say that, actually, because with how much I loved House of Mouse as a kid, my friends and I, when we were younger, there was a moment from House of Mouse featuring Von Drake that we actually used to quote all the time. And it was in one of the Christmas episodes where they were showing a cartoon version of the Nutcracker, where Ludwig Von Drake is arguing with John Cleese as the narrator. Because it's who's like, just ignore me and give her the doll. But how can I just ignore me and give her the doll? And so the Mickey Nutcracker doll just kind of does its own thing, like it dances, and Minnie's like, oh wow, that's wonderful. Von Drake's like, wait a minute, it's not supposed to dance. And so he looks inside of the Nutcracker, takes the head off, and Minnie's like, you broke it. And the narrator's like, right, just for that, I'm kicking you out of the story. And very much like Jazz on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air literally throws him out. My friends and I used to quote, just for that, I'm kicking you out of the story, all the time when we were kids.
I don't know if I ever saw it.
Well, it's definitely for moments with Ludwig Von Drake, that one sticks out in the memories of my friends and I from when we were younger.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny. A lot of that, what House of Genius segments, right?
That's right. Yeah, where he was kind of like showing off an invention of his.
A lot of those were pretty good. Far character wise.
Oh yeah.
The animation was certainly improved from the Rescue Rangers, DuckTales days. So I appreciated that.
Very much, yeah.
And like I said, because of the inventiveness, there was a lot more I could do with with bringing the scientific kooky character into the delivery of the lines. And I think, I mean, the writing wasn't bad either. But lately I'm having a blast with Kelly and Mark Drop and some of the writers on Mickey Mouse Funhouse, but also now we have. Has it started yet? No, I don't think they're showing yet. We have Mickey Mouse Clubhouse 2.0 or something.
Oh wow!
So yeah, they brought back Clubhouse, and it's the same, even more developed digital animation that is on the Funhouse
Mhm.
shows, which are, you know, kind of hit and miss, you know.
Mhm.
but 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 a lot of good stuff in the Funhouse shows. But the Clubhouse series, uh, where we've really formulated, me and Kelly and the writers and Rob LaDuca, who's from the Gummy Bears way back.
Oh, nice.
Producer. Uh, we formulated uh, a slight new variation on Von Drake, because you know, Clubhouse is really pretty specifically for preschoolers,
Right.
and there's a lot of educational stuff, and I can't do too much complicated ad-libbing, you know, that goes too far afield from the subject matter. But boy, I don't know, just we put our heads together, and I don't even necessarily pre-edit the lines, you know, so it's almost like working like Paul Frees did in the original World of Color series, where he would just get basically an outline, a narrative to
Mhm.
deliver as Von Drake, and then he would just make stuff up. and oh, it was brilliant.
Mm.
But so yeah, so you know, it's like and we're gonna start counting to 10. 1, 2, 5, no. You know, five. That's because I've got 5 fingers. Wait a second. What's that, a finger? Oh, that's my glove. I have to take it back to the glove repair shop. You know, whatever. You know, whatever comes to mind.
Mhm.
And of course, that fits within the space and that works with the surrounding dialogue. But boy, it's been fun. It's just
Mhm.
coming up with some really silly spin on some very simple dialogue. And I don't know. Have yet to see how it comes together.
You have voice doubled for Doc Hudson in Cars video
Oh
games,
yeah.
in place of Paul Newman, but of course that was
I
before
know.
Paul Newman passed away. And you know, like, because of that, it
I
was
know.
established in Cars 2 that Doc Hudson as a character had passed away. And I don't know if you saw Cars 3, but it's basically a tribute to Paul Newman. So I'm wondering if you were offered to, like, if they gave Doc a big role in the Cars sequels, like if that character was still alive in that universe, and you were offered the role, would you do it? Like would you
I
have
don't
done it?
know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's incredibly difficult, incredibly challenging to do to really emulate Paul Newman.
Okay.
Really difficult, because you know
He's Paul
uh,
Newman.
he was Paul Newman, but you know, he's whatever Actors Studio or whatever. You know, what was Stella Adler and all that, and Meisner. You know, those great acting teachers that taught um, actors to play characters, you know, realistically, with genuine humanity. And of course, then that went into the Stanislavski stuff with the method acting BS. That's such a self-delusion, method acting.
So to wrap it up, let's talk a little bit about Star Wars. You know, you've done Cad Bane and also Count Dooku, and of course, Count Dooku
Yeah.
Count Dooku, that's the great Christopher Lee.
That's right.
If I'm not mistaken, he chose you to do that character. Is that correct?
Well, I had been doing Christopher Lee's voice or similar because Christopher Lee to me is a very standard Shakespearean British voice.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
always that very dramatic bass baritone, severe stage voice, Christopher Lee. Anyway, so I could always do that. And I always do a little trick where I twist my face a little bit to get that prominent nose resonance. I don't have to pinch my nose; I just twist it a bit. But I have a kind of a honker. Not really, but
Hey, I mean, in a case like that, I mean, come on, you do Dale, so
yeah, Dale. Yeah, Dale. That's fun. But anyway, so
yes, so I did a lot of Christopher Lee type voices, and then when they did a Clone Wars Attack of the Clones game, and they did a Disney character voices, and they said, "Oh, well, no, why don't you play Count Dooku? You do a Christopher Lee, right?" And I said, "Yeah." So I did, and then we did the Gendy Tartakovsky series, his what do you call it, avant-garde impressionistic animation shorts, micro series they called it, I think, or micro episode, I don't know, whatever. That was interesting. Gendy's nice to work with. He's very, very creative, but he's really more a pure animator. I mean, English is his second language. And so there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue, or a whole lot of acting to do, really. But that was nice. And then, we had the auditions for Clone Wars, and I met Dave Filoni. 20 some years ago for this audition for this new series. That's funny. I thought I would be the narrator. I was really surprised I didn't get it, because they wanted a 1940s newsreel type, and I do like 5 different ones, and I don't know, maybe I'm just conceited. I think I'm good. I do a lot of 1940s radio announcers, and
like the announcer in like the announcer for the on the Mickey Mouse Works, the how-to cartoons with Goofy, imitating.
Oh yeah.
John McLeish, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's funny because John McLeish was imitating the newsreel announcers or narrators that he knew from his younger years.
Well, I guess then it all works.
Yeah, John McLeish,
a fellow Canadian, by the way.
Yeah, quite the character. Quite the character. I've only heard stories about him. Well, he liked like Pinto Colvig. Anyway, so we did I did the whole series of auditions. I don't know if they even made me audition for Count Dooku.
Okay.
I didn't even know if he was going to be in the series. I don't know. I did a bunch of different character voices and announcers for Dave. But then, when we did the pilot episode, when the series was cast, it was like, "Oh, you're Count Dooku." Okay. And so we did our first recording, and with these two beautiful kids, Ashley and Matt.
But then, and then when we started the series, I don't know, a month or two later, they said, okay, so here's the word from George. He said he loved everything. He said, but he wants everyone to remember. He said, I'm not doing movies anymore. I'm done. I'm retired.
Oh.
There's no more Star Wars movies. This was before the prequels.
Yeah.
He said now this voice cast, you are these characters. Play them as you feel. You own them. It's like, what? So yeah, it says George says just like play Count Dooku, a little bit younger and more muscular, and just play the politician personality and the duplicitous evil Sith Lord pops out, at the right moments, and but play it as you feel. Make it your own. He said because you are now the character. That's from George,
Mm-hmm.
and sadly, when they decided to make a feature length cut of what was it, 3 episodes, one of the story arcs, Samuel Jackson caught wind of it and called his agent or his manager and said, wait. In the contract, because this is a theatrical release, you original cast members have right of first refusal to play those roles for theatrical release. And so sure enough, it's in the contract. They have a right of first refusal as the voice of their characters. So they had Samuel Jackson and Christopher Lee and I forgot who else dub over our performances that we had done for the original episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Matt Wood, who became really good buddies with, we're 2 peas in a pod. Matt, he still tells the story to this day. So we went to London to record Christopher Lee, and he put the headphones on and he's listening to this track. He kept saying, why am I doing this? This is fine. This is very good. That sounds like me. I said, why are you having me redo this?
Well, at least he knew that somebody was filling in.
In your contract, don't you want the money? No. But Matt kept saying, he said, he thought you were really good. and
well, that's quite the praise from somebody like that. Yeah.
Well, he just didn't see any reason to redo the part. He said it was good. It was very good.
Well, talking about people like that, like Christopher Lee, who's a legend, who is a legendary actor. One of my previous guests was Pat Fraley. Pat also says hello, by the way.
Oh, Pat!
And I have
to laugh. Pat's a madman. One of the sweetest people in the world. My God.
Well, when I had him on the show, he was talking about working with Orson Welles and how Orson would be transported to set in an ambulance because he never wanted to be late. When we were talking at the beginning about the Transformers series, when you did the Transformers movie, Did you have any interaction with Orson Welles at all?
No,
Okay.
no, nobody did except Wally,
Okay.
as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe there was, I don't know, was Michael Bell there? I don't remember.
Another
I've just-
previous guest, Michael Bell.
yeah, yeah. No, I've heard that, yeah, that uh, that Orson was very nice, but he wanted his little dog with him, and they had to keep, you know, you know, whatever they had to keep redoing takes because they could hear the dog panting or whatever. But anyway, but I guess Orson had been clued in to Wally's tendency to over direct, to put it mildly.
Okay.
We all loved Wally. We loved him. I mean, Michael Bell, just we stood in awe one day. He just Michael just stopped the session and basically, in a very gentlemanly way,
Yeah. That
read,
sounds Michael. Yeah.
he read Wally the riot act. You know, he said, Wally, we're all professionals. We know what we're doing. We don't have to do 50 takes when you've got it on take 2. Yeah, but no. He said, you just somehow you think that it's not right or something. Because Wally really wanted to play all the parts himself. And he would end up, you know, he'd just make us do things over and over and over and over and over again. No, that's not right. No, that didn't quite. No, I need more, you know. Oh God. Anyway, but so Orson Welles and Wally told the story on himself.
Oh.
So you know, Orson, when he showed up at the session, he grabbed me by the arm and he said, "Now don't presume to direct me," or something like that. Wally, oh no, I wouldn't do that. I wish I could remember the exact phrase. I'm sure it was much better than that. But Wally said, no. You're Orson Welles. You know, you do what you know is right for the character. But you know, I mean, I might pop on and just give you a few pointers about the scene and the character. All right. and far as I know, it went just fine. And I think he was gone before the movie was released, right? It was his last performance.
Oh wow.
Orson Welles, yeah.
Well, that's all I've got here. Is there anything you want to say to finish?
Boy, I mean,
we've covered a lot of ground.
I know. Surprisingly, you know, it's I mean, we really mainly got into the you know, the behind the scenes nuts and bolts stories of
all these classics pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but yeah, I mean, really just my long ride in Hollywood. But I mean, I could go on for hours and hours about individual shows and characters and gigs, being signature voice of the NBC Peacock logo for 5 years. Did a lot of promos at NBC. The promos they don't get on, they don't list promos on and movie trailers on IMDb. But boy, I've done a lot of that. A lot of movie trailers and you hear my voice in many big movies, E.T.
Oh, yeah. Toy Story 2.
Yeah. Well, Toy Story 2 was one of those things where I did scratch tracks. I did scratch for Kelsey Grammer.
Oh, that's cool.
Before he even started recording, I think, or maybe he had just done an initial session. And then yeah, they let me they do that little what was it, radio announcer, or
I think it was the for Woody's Roundup, the announcer.
oh yeah, the TV, the TV thing, which I enjoyed. Yeah.
Well, Corey, thank you so much for joining me for the big 90th episode of Nostalgia Talk. This really,
oh wow,
it's really been wonderful to have a big talent like yourself to come on for this big milestone. It really is incredible.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate the the research, the work, and the passion that you put into these podcasts. I've seen
thank you
just a couple, and
hey, just a couple is good enough for me.
And really impressive, and it's so much appreciated, because we get asked a lot to be interviewed.
Yeah,
and I mean I've only had a few interview experiences that I really enjoyed and thought were really excellent.
Well, I hope that this has been one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Because because there's so many that are just all surface stuff, and it's like yes, they have a list of questions, and it's all about the sort of ratings grabbing type topics, and oh yes, and let's hear you do 2 seconds of all of these characters.
Yeah, I normally don't ask my guests to perform just because, I don't own these characters. I know you guys don't own the characters. And not to mention, it's also it doesn't feel very professional because, I'm not asking you here to.
Right.
I'm not asking you here to read off of a script. I'm asking you to come on the show to chat with me about your work, because it's something that I'm interested in hearing about.
Exactly. And that's what's so appreciated and admired. I mean, that's because this, to me, this is what I want to know, as if I'm, researching or just interested in the work and lives of various performers or artists or whatever. I don't want the stuff that they're going to do on the Jimmy Fallon show,
Right. Yeah.
It's like, hey, yeah, you did the squeaky mouse voice in this. Let's hear some of that, And everybody applauds. And
well, on that note, I actually do have to give, of course, a special shout out to the previous guests before this, because as I said, this is episode 90. And that's another perfect 10. But it's also 10 all the way up to it's 10 away from 100. And I started this as a pandemic project when I was finishing up college. And kept going as much as I could, people's lives get busy, and so it's like hey, I'm reaching out from Canada, would you like to do this, would you like to do an interview over Zoom with me? And then we just kind of take it from there. So yeah, and the fact that this is the 90th one is just Man, time really does fly. Wow.
Wow, 90.
It's a big number.
That's just so impressive. That's so much work.
It really is. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. I should talk. I mean, like 5 years
You've
ago,
done over 90,000 voices. So
I've burned out. Well, it's not necessarily that many voices. Well, it's right. Like Dawes Butler always said, he's saying, well, I only do maybe 5 or 6 voices, but I'll do 1,000 different characters.
Characters, yes.
They're
right.
characters. He always
The
he
voice
always
is one
stressed-
thing, yeah.
And I usually rather rudely correct people when they say your voices. I say they're not voices.
They're characters.
They're characters.
Exactly.
If you're doing voices, you're doing it wrong.
Because that means they're just doing voices. That's not a character.
Yeah, exactly.
And people can play a dozen characters and never change their voice.
Right. Well, Corey, thanks again for coming on the show. It's been great having you.
It's really been a pleasure. Again, I really appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you. And to all of you listeners out there, stay tuned for the next Nostalgia Talk, episode number 91. Peace out.